This is going to be an interesting video because if ever there was an example of there is no good guy in the equation, I think this is it. There may be some people you can learn from in this equation. And I'm talking about Dr. Richey in relation to my last video where he threatened to sue the people who were questioning his degrees. Cam James, Johnny Walker Dredd, and I also want to include the Vanguard because they jumped with Cam James and I think they went too far. Because the way their energy, and I'm just going to show it in a minute, it really came off as haterish, naive, and not, and just being slop tube, or as a bad empanada often refers to, being bread tube. And I can put this up in a minute. I got some clips of what I mean by bread tube. And also, like, it's definitely not just the Vanguard. Like, Johnny Walker Dredd, his channel looks like the channel of any old bigot. Cam James, I would say, is arguably very Samboic. Just an anti-black racist and black skin. And I'm going to do a video on him probably next. Maybe in a week or two. Because that's kind of a thing to say about somebody. And I caught that. That was my image of him before this. So when I saw that he was accusing, before I really knew where he was getting it from and Johnny Walker Dredd, like you just see thumbnails of videos, didn't watch. I don't really value Cam's research. And I still don't, even though I think as much as I said what I said about Johnny Walker Dredd, Cam, and the Vanguard, Richey is kind of coonish. And people have called this out. It's not just me. It's not just people who are copying me. I said this and I saw somebody say it word for word. They were like, this dude's channel is like 90% Karen videos and Trump derangement syndrome. And look, I think Trump is horrible. Just off, really, just the way he's constantly race hustling. And then you take that with he'll race hustle in the other direction if it means protecting white people. So yeah, I think even Trump himself has TDS. But how progressive are you if you're just like Karen video, Trump, Karen video, Trump, and you have like one reparations advocacy video? You're fighting racism like a firefighter. You're not trying to just stamp it out permanently, white supremacy done, reset race, blah, blah, blah. But Cam, as I'll go into in the future, is even worse than that. And so I'm taking Richey's side, and in general, for most of his degrees, they're either legit or they're, I would say, technically legit. And then after you get past that, there is some funny style, coonish shit. So I'll get to that too. But let me start off with your boys, the Vanguard.
I've been a college professor since 2016. I have worked hard to come from foster care and gang life to make something of myself. Individuals who operated outside of good faith decided to, in bad faith, a few years ago, publish untrue statements about me, affiliating me with colleges I never went to, and claiming I had no actual degrees. It is insane. But today,
and automatically, I don't know, again, and I want to be fair to Dr. Rashaad Richey, but it kind of seems like he's poisoning the well there by bringing up some other unrelated event from several years ago, where it's like, oh, these people were connecting me to colleges I wasn't connected to. From what I could tell in the Cam James video, he was going off his LinkedIn and off of the material that had been published by Richey himself.
I would not use, and this is kind of a logical analysis, because in some ways they end up being right, but I don't think this is a good place for poisoning the well, because the well was already poisoned with the accusations, and the accusations are stronger than what is just on his LinkedIn. Matter of fact, most of his LinkedIn, especially what's featured, checks out to me. So if people are saying he has 14 degrees, 10 degrees, and I think some of that is his fault for other areas. So in that sense, I agree with them. But then if you're just focusing on the LinkedIn, you kind of lose most of that argument anyway, because that's where I'd say all but one, and I'll get to what I mean, of his degrees are either real or technically real, and nobody's really proven otherwise. They've debunked, but only in the literal sense of what debunk means, casting doubt. But casting doubt without evidence isn't worth shit.
Yeah, he also alleges that people are saying that he doesn't have any degrees at all. That is not a claim that Cam James makes in his video. He alleges that many of the degrees are from, diploma mills or, completely fabricated, but he doesn't say that Dr. Rashaad Richey has had no degree.
That shows me that, like, they didn't really watch Dr. Richey's first video and fact checked it. They are just reacting to it. And if you fact check the first video, and I'll get to what I mean by that in a minute, you're still talking about the degrees that are featured on LinkedIn, and that would mean he's a doctor 3 times over. And with master's as prerequisites, so you could add those degrees, bachelor's and all that. So, yeah, I think they're kind of leaping. And this is what I mean. I was getting hater vibes.
By the way,
I'm trying to really see, what's real and what isn't.
He has an EDD from Clark Atlanta University, which pretty much any academic will tell you is not the same as a PhD and is much less serious than a PhD. Not that it's nothing, but trust me, from my own life, I know academics, I know people with actual PhDs, and a lot of them don't even really think that people with EDDs should get to call themselves Dr. So-and-so. Like, they think it's kind of, a cop-out, right? Because an EDD is just so much less work to actually obtain than a PhD. And you can do basic research into this, guys. Literally just look it up on Reddit, and you'll find people saying exactly that. Things like EDD is fine for someone who is faculty in an education department or in an academic administration. For faculty in other departments, PhD is the expected degree. Here's another one saying EDD is not a fake degree, but rather it is a less research-oriented than a PhD. Obtaining an EDD can make it more challenging to secure a faculty job.
Now, this right here is just ridiculous, and it's also intellectually dishonest, because if you look at Honey Do Me a Favor in Reddit, underneath that, they talk about what an EDD degree is. If it has the capital D in it, it's a doctorate. And I think one might be like education, and then that becomes practice-based. One is more practice-based, other one philosophy-based. But it's still a doctorate. You're still a doctor. And this person explains that, yeah, EDD is practitioner-based degree. PhD is theoretical. And with some positions, the EDD is more valuable. And he talks about that. And he says they also carry particularly additional merit and job prospects when the degree is awarded from et cetera, blah, blah, blah. But he's saying they carry equal merit. So again, this is what I mean by just kind of hater energy, and they're not really, they're buying too much into Cam. And that's why subscribe for why I called Cam a racist, because I don't have time. I got too much on my table to do both at the same time. That ends up being a longer video that a lot of people won't really get to that part anyway if I put it at the end of this video. But I will say, what I'm saying about Cam deserves a deeper dive. Uh, and it even then it won't be that long. Like maybe I'll talk about my definition of racism when I get to that. But anyhow, they're acknowledging he's a doctor. And they're doing it in a way that I think is kind of ridiculous because the D in EDD is doctorial. That makes him a doctor. Not like the person, lab elegant is actually wrong. Like you also don't use Reddit as a source. Like that, you could have just asked like Google's AI, and they'll tell you exactly what it is. You could have went to Wikipedia. This is like weird right here. I don't even know why they included this.
Yeah, and let's go ahead and take a look at the admissions page from Beulah Heights, because I think that'll also be revealing about the fact that he has the BA and the MBA, because if you zoom in here, it tells you that you get a free MBA after you complete a 4-year degree in business at Beulah Heights University. And let me tell you guys, that is not standard. Okay, typically there's an entirely new admissions process when you go from your undergrad bachelor's in business administration to getting your master's in business administration, your MBA. You typically have to take an entirely new entrance exam. You reapply. Another thing that stands out to me about this university, which is a totally real university, and nobody would dispute that. But again, it's not very prestigious. And the problem with Dr. Rashaad Richey is he kind of presents himself as this highly educated doctor guy, and he is using the diploma mills. And then when you dig into where he actually went to school, it's clear it's maybe something he's insecure about, because this has absolutely open enrollment, right? Which means there's no admissions. There's nobody who gets rejected from going to this college, which means it's really unselective. And it would probably be another reason as to why they have the 3.9% graduation rate.
Christian values.
Exactly. So that maybe makes sense. I don't know if he's a Christian guy or not. But it's just, one of those deals where it's like, yeah, this is not exactly.
But see, this is it's a real university. You can look it up. It's accredited in the U.S. It's low ranked, but it's not the bottom. Like, there's worse schools in Beulah. And they're conceding he now has a bachelor's and an MB. Yeah, the MB is part of, like, since it's a business school, it comes with it. Big deal. Like, this, like, at this point, they aren't focusing on the fraud, which we'll get to in a minute. They're going by Richie's first reaction video. Okay, let me kind of slow this down. And so far, since we have a bachelor's from this school and we have an EDD, likely a master's as a prerequisite, master's of some sort, and I guess this is where he got the bachelor's. So we're still talking about a doctor with a business degree, and like they're conceding that. So due to the prerequisites, they're already conceding 5 degrees right here.
Prestigious, right? It's kind of like where you would go if you were like really, really just desperate to get an opportunity to get a foot in the door for your education, right? I would imagine if you're extremely low income and you've got a graduation equivalency diploma, which is really hard work for a lot of people and should be celebrated. And if you go to a place like this, I'm sure you could build a great, fantastic life for yourself, just like Dr. Rashaad Richey had. I don't have a fucking degree in shit, right? So anybody could say anything in the comment section to be like, you guys are being fucking elitist. I'm not being elitist. I don't have a fucking degree at all, right? Dr. Rashaad Richey is inarguably more educated than I am, right? I'm just saying I think it's a little bit immoral the way that he fabricates his credentials, and I think it's worth discussing.
I generally see the Vanguard as being like sort of liberal leftist, whatever, right? I don't like liberals using the word elitist. It's kind of a pet peeve of mine, because when conservatives aren't race hustling and they start talking about, they're like, okay, we got to mix in a little populism. Then they jump to the word elitist. and just skip over billion fucking air, 100 millionaire, rich, wealthy. Like, they skip over that shit. And then they start using the word elitist. Like, you can be an elite. Like, you can be a quote unquote elitist. Like, it's an ideology when you don't have elite paper. Like, it's an actual economic cast. So they're framing, I'm like, they kind of dropped, my opinion of the Vanguard dropped with this. Even though it's going to trend more upward when Dr. Richey shoots himself in the foot. But let me just kind of go through the rest of the Vanguard.
Put it up.
He said he had 10 degrees. We've heard about one of them so far, and he's acting like this case is settled.
Because of my achievements at the university, I was awarded the alum.
Made this video if it was just like he has an EDD, not a PhD, that would be nuts. And Cam James wouldn't have made this video if it had been for that, right? But then we do a little more digging, and it's like, okay, so he does have that EDD from Clark University, Atlanta, and that's real. And then he does have a BA from another super small, one of the poorest ranked universities in Atlanta, which has a 3.9% graduation rate and an equally terrible job placement rate for post-graduation, where they advertise that if you buy tuition for a bachelor's of business administration there, you will get an MBA for free. All right, that's insane. Those are the two legit ones, guys. That's what we're talking about. Even one of the legit ones is only half legit. It's like pay to play for sure. And then there's 8, 9 others that don't get addressed at all. That's bullshit, man. That's bullshit. It's a scam, and it has to be called out because, again, that's media malpractice, and that's look out the door if you're an ambulance. That's the kind of shit we do every day.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm pretty sure any of these random ass defenders of this bullshit resume padding would totally agree it's worth talking about if this was in the context of like any number of other commentators who we frequently discuss and criticize on the show. So I don't really understand, what the issue is. If you want, we can watch some more of this boring ass fucking video. Is that really what chat wants? Do you want to watch some more of this fucking endless bullshit?
HBCUs are strict on scholarly and academic education and research. But I do have something for you, Dartmouth College. Let's put it up. Because I haven't really spoken about this or posted much publicly, many are shocked to know that I was accepted at Dartmouth College and enrolled, and currently a student at Dartmouth College. In particular, the School of Medicine. Dartmouth College is a prestigious Ivy League university, according to the data, and is accredited by the New England Commission of Higher Education, a recognized accreditor, ensuring its
I don't even really know how this is relevant. Like, he's working on a degree now with Dartmouth. Okay, bro, like, I don't think this even really got brought up by Cam, at least not from what I remember. But either way, you guys can definitely go watch the full video if you want.
It's not in the video at all. There's nothing about Dartmouth College, and there's nobody who gives a shit that you got enrolled in that college. Okay? Nobody cares. Oh, guys, when I was 18, I got accepted into Berkeley, but I couldn't go because my parents were broke. Then you didn't go to Berkeley, and you're not a fucking Berkeley graduate. You know what I mean? Like, that's just the way it fucking goes. That's how the cookie crumbles sometimes. It's absolutely insane. And again, probably like we can even Google it. I'll do it after we're done. I'll check and see if I can find any information in the Dartmouth Rolodex of students that are enrolled there and see if there's any reference to Dr. Rashaad Richey. And
if you're accused of going to diploma mills and you're accused of having a questionable background with fake schools or whatever, then showing that you were admitted into Dartmouth speaks to those accusations. And I watched this video. It's still up. Dr. Richey, in this video, at this point, he's like only 11 minutes in of a 30 minutes video, and he does give more evidence. So I want to speak to some of that evidence because what he shows, I would argue, gives him 2 more doctor's degrees. And these are the 2 degrees that I would say are technically real, but the masters as prereqs sort of violate or are against what they have on paper. He kind of explains this. And what he shows, let me pull him up. What he shows is he doesn't show like his degrees from these schools. He shows like, and this is like a law degree and a quantum physics degree. And these are the 2 that I say are technically real. Because, or you can prove that they're not if you actually research or even probably call the people. But even then, it doesn't make sense to assume that they're not real. Because he got the degrees in a Haitian school and a French school. With a quantum physics degree, if you're going to assume or call this like a diploma mill, say it's not a real school, he's holding the degree with faculty on their website. It's a small school, and supposedly you can't get that degree there unless they partner with somebody else, and they did. I mean, I don't get the vibe that Richey is an ass about all these degrees that he has, but because he was always talking about he's got to go to law school, he's going to law school, and he would cut his show, and eventually he graduates. Now, to make these degrees functional in the U.S., you have to have them reviewed by a NACIS member. And they review these degrees for a lot of immigrants to say, okay, like this school did go through all these things, you passed. Now, it could be a diploma mill. I don't really care, like, because then you should be focusing on the specific school. Don't talk about somebody who's getting over when you have an entire organization that is breaking the law by just giving people degrees that they didn't learn anything and demonstrate knowledge to get. Then Richey isn't the problem. If anything, he's like, yo, let me get in while the getting's good, especially if he segues all of that to getting accepted into a top 15 school that is Dartmouth. That's why I said he probably should have showed, like, it made sense, especially you're only a third into a video, to say, hey, I'm in Dartmouth. And also, like, they accused him, I think, I didn't watch this as recent, of, like, not featuring, like, or they were saying, like, the LinkedIn is embellished. Well, the two schools he's claiming are Dartmouth and Beulah. Like, that's what you see when you go to his LinkedIn. But with what he did show was those NACIS approvals. And if you look at the NACIS approvals, we're talking about 2 more doctorates that had masters as prereqs. And these were both active NACIS members. I think AZ was later dropped, but at the time, it was a NACIS member. So he shows both of those. And I would say, we're talking, if you include those, and I do, when I say technical, because I have some questions about the masters and the schools he went to get the masters so he could take the program, because it's a prereq. But once he's taken the program and it's reviewed by NACIS, then it's like, are you accusing fraud? Like he just made up the NACIS document? Because if you're not, he's basically saying, I'm a doctor 3 times over. What are y'all talking about? So at this point, because he showed both of the NACIS documents, which if you read them directly, let me see, where are we? I'm going to read through it directly, but I mean, essentially they just both say straight up that you are you have the equivalency of a doctor of philosophy, PhD in quantum physics, and a JD in law. Like, that's there. Like, you kind of got to hammer that puppy in. I'm going to say it again like Umar. Yes, I am. That's there. That is demonstrated. You know, if that is demonstrated, then, and you're not even going through the whole video to see, then we got problemos, brother. Like, that's why I call, like, and I think Bad Empanada, when he came up with the term bread tube, he was speaking specifically about the Vanguard. Cam, to me, is a combination of bread and slop. The dude who I said is just kind of like any old bigot's video. God, I forget his name. Johnny Walker Dread. His channel is maybe a little bit larger than mine. You know, it's not really bread tube. Like, I don't think either, well, I can say for sure, neither one of us is relying on any type of monetary thing. But I'm also not just, like, the interesting thing is, you have, like, out of all these slop and bread, you've got one negative reparations video in Johnny Walker Dread. And maybe you could even say, because I'm going to go into the reparations video that Cam James had. It to me was terrible. Even though it started off good, the way it went was horrible. If Cam, I think you should take it down. That was horrible. Now, actually, Cam, leave it up so I can critique it, then apologize and take it down. That's what I would say if I saw the dude. I would tell him that. I'm playing those. I'm going to show them. You can zoom in and see that these were active, like these are NASA's documents that prove that he has 2 doctorates. Now, you can kind of look at the funny style stuff and say that he forged them if you want to. I mean, he's showing that he did he did I think a master's thesis, and he defended his doctorate with a what are those things called? A dissertation. So to me, he doesn't just have the document. He has that on his side, and I'll go with him with that. But a few things were bothering me with Richey, and he did another video, like the one that I have him previously, where I copied that part, and where he said he was going to sue these people. And that, that makes sense. But even in the previous video, one thing a lot of people noticed, and I thought they were bullshitting, and I'm like, yeah, they're not bullshitting. This is real. The dude is investigating himself. Now, all of these documents, like, and the dissertation and everything, the thesis, which these are up, these are real. Those are real. He didn't and I say real as in, like, those aren't paid actors with the dissertation and all that. But and the documents are real in the sense that you can verify if they're real or not. It'd be pretty easy. And people have tried. Trust me. They've looked at those NASA's reports that he showed, and they were like, yeah, is it really showing that so you a doctor? Okay, and they've looked at it. And I think the master's requirements on the way to getting there, I've got some questions, because he goes back and forth with what schools he went to. He's transferring for reasons that are shifty, but whatever. Even if, like, you can get a doctorate, especially if you have other degrees, without the requirement sometimes. But that's not me. I'm not going there. But in the video, where he threatened to sue and he took down, he shows his admissions letter to UNMP. And he showed his Morgan State document that recognizes Paris Graduate School. And this is recognizing his PhD from Paris Graduate School, and the schools that he bounced around. So, like, the Morgan State document, again, I think he has 3 doctorates, technically, and good evidence for all but maybe the law degree. So when he shows like the other, he said he has like a brain, and this is the one degree that I think is kind of bogus on his LinkedIn. He has, like, I think it was a neuroscience degree. And he shows that, and people are immediately pointing out that it's showing that it's the wrong school. Now, and then when you look into San Jose University, Costa Rica, and that's what the stamp is saying. And then up top, it's Universidad del Pacifico. That you typically don't see. You could have, like, satellite campuses. I've seen that. But typically it matches. So people were pointing that out. And then, like, I already had issues with that. And then he shows his neurophysics transcripts from let's see. This is a school in Cambodia. And that's where it kind of starts to look funny to me. Let's see. I don't think I clipped it, but the school we went to, I forget what it was for the master's for the JD degree, the law degree. That didn't look right, and he took the video down. So the evidence for these neurophysics and the master's degree for that wasn't looking right. That's where I think, that's probably why I think he took it down. Now, you could still hang your hat on the NACEs when it comes to the doctorate in law and being able to practice law if you pass the bar. But even then, it's like, is that fakeable? Because the issue, and this is like, there's a lot of convoluted stuff, but one thing that kind of stands out is you can't get that degree from there. But then he was saying there was a partner, but I don't know. I think the doctorate program that he went to afterwards, I don't know if that was the one in Costa Rica. No, that was the one in Mexico. That looks funny style. But actually having the doctor's degree, and I also think it's kind of weird to not just take the bar and pass the bar. Pass the bar first, then go get some rinky-dink degree in. I'd say rinky-dink because looking into these schools, the one in Mexico, I don't think they even have that graduate program. But anyhow, what really bothered me beyond the UNP, the neuroscience shit with Richey, what really bothered me was he claims different schools on the back of his book. I haven't read his book, just looking at the back of his book. And he claims different schools on his Young Turks profile. Now, I just saw clips of this. I haven't really looked at his Young Turks profile. There's an inconsistency there. So, assuming the Young Turks profile is correct, it just seems like when I look back at both of those, it was inconsistent with what he was saying in the video. Now, if you just go by his LinkedIn, I think there's enough evidence to where he's a doctor 3 times over who got accepted into an Ivy League school. He's winning. But if you look at the back of his book and you look at his Young Turks profile, so a lot of these schools don't match up. The neurophysics documents, that's the only thing that kind of screams diploma mill to me, to where like this is like some organization that just kind of fakes documents. I don't know what's going on there. Like none of those do not look real. They, to the point where like why even go there? But like I said before, if you're accepted into Dartmouth and you are a professor at multiple schools, they've done their background checks better than you're going to get from Vanguard or Cam or Johnny Walker Dredd. But there's certain aspects, and this is what I took from this video before he took it down, that looked real funny, that if I'm defending this dude, I'm not standing by that. So it wouldn't surprise me if he took it down and he's not going to sue, and he's just going to ride this out because he has some dirty shit. By my research, I talked about what I think is dirty. I talked about what I think is kind of questionable. The biggest thing is not even him investigating himself, because that's not where his evidence is coming from. It's just weird to even do that. It's not his 3 doctorates, even though I think the masters to get there are in question. But unless he's faking the NACES documents, he's also faking some other things, and other people are in on it, and it's getting past his employers, which includes schools. Like, people are talking about the Young Turks. Dude, he could walk away from the Young Turks. He'd probably be better off without the Young Turks. But we're talking universities where he teaches at, and we're talking about a top 14, I think it's 15th school in the nation.